We're nearing the end of the road here with Speech 104 via Nicholls Online, and that means it's time for really big assignments like the video resume and the Skype job interview. And the textbook was a big help to me along the way, and I wanted to share with you 3 observations here from the readings we did this week that really helped me hopefully perform to my maximum potential on these assignments. The first being the piece from Forbes magazine that we read that featured the 7 tips to nail a Skype interview. And one of the biggest tips they drove home was that you should always look the part. And this really struck a chord with me because if you'll recall, back in the instructional video we posted earlier, I showed you how to tie a necktie. And I talked about how it's always important to dress the part for the job you want, to always look your best on the job interview. And this is something I carried over into my Skype interview, where I again sported a necktie, tried to look as presentable as possible. So that's something I did take from that Forbes article that would serve me well in the future when on the job hunt. Another thing we saw was a video from Time magazine in which we learned how to ace a job interview on Skype. And they showed us how to avoid several pitfalls that a lot of people come across when doing job interviews online via Skype. Things you might not think about. You could get caught up being so nervous with the job interview itself that you overlook some minor details, like they talked about avoiding bad posture. Always sit up straight and focus on the person you're doing the interview with online. They remind us to have a good background to clean up any clutter from the background. Make sure you clean house that day. You want the interviewer to be focused on you and what you're saying and not what you've got going on in the background there. And then finally we had a clip from the Wall Street Journal which advised us on how to handle a job interview over Skype. And again, they raised some very useful points that I picked up there, talking about framing your shot, which is always an issue for some like me growing up in a small house with 2 kids. You know how frantic that can be, those of you with children. Most days in my house it looks like a Toys R Us just exploded all over the place. So throughout the course, I will admit I've had a very difficult time finding areas to frame my shot in, but that's something you definitely want to focus on when conducting the Skype interview. They talk about good lighting. You should try and always be lit from the front. You want to take the lighting into consideration. It gets to be almost like shooting a movie in Hollywood with all these technical aspects sometimes, but they're all very important and worth paying attention to. And finally, the Wall Street Journal article recommends that you try out a test Skype interview with a friend. I wasn't able to do that. I don't have any friends who have Skype. I wasn't able to give that a run. My wife and I practiced conducting the interview in our living room a time or two. Not recorded, but still, I felt like that helped to keep me sharp and to get my responses up to where they needed to be. So let's all enjoy what we have left of the class together. I was happy this evening to share with you the observations I picked up along the way in week number 7. This has been Joey Mobile, and you guys have a great night.